What's happening, everyone? It is a beautiful day to be alive, a lot to be grateful for, another day to be living, moving, breathing, and talking about fun things. And in this case, something that is largely pointless from the perspective of the common folk, such as me. But it's still something, interesting, worth talking about. Of course, what I'm talking about is the infamous, as they're saying on TV, the slap heard around the world. Kind of annoying that I'm talking about this, to be honest. Like, I don't like being one of those, like, freaking Entertainment Tonight Inside Edition. Will Smith slaps Chris Rock in the face. I really don't give a crap, on one hand. On the other hand, I kind of do, because of an interesting little thing. Like, there's a lot of different nuances and ways to take this whole situation. When I first woke up Monday morning and I see that that's on the news, because of course I didn't watch the Oscars. There's very few things that I would rather watch less than the Oscars. But when I saw the news, I was like, are you serious? Will Smith slapped Chris Rock in the face for telling a joke about G.I. Jane. My first initial responses were, why would you ever slap somebody in the face for telling somebody a joke about G.I. Jane? And my secondary thought was, it's a pretty terrible joke by Chris Rock, because that's like a super old movie. And I didn't get what was so funny about it. I knew that Jada Pinkett Smith had a shaved head or short hair. There's just a lot of things that I didn't get. So, face value, I'm like, that should never be done. And that was a pretty crappy joke, but it doesn't deserve a slap in the face. And so then I'm thinking, like, all right, that's my opinion. Then I watched Scott Adams. Scott Adams is the creator of Dilbert. He brings up a very interesting counter argument of why he was actually kind of okay with what Will Smith did. So his point is, like, as a comedian, there are certain lines that you don't cross. One of them being, you don't make fun of somebody's physical disability that they have no control over. So I didn't know that Jada Pinkett Smith suffered from something called alopecia. That's basically where you're losing your hair. I can relate to her on that. I don't have alopecia, but I'm thinning out on the back, and it ain't fun. So I'm thinking that Jada has a right in the moment, if she felt like Chris Rock knew that she had alopecia, that's why when that joke was told, it wasn't that funny. The whole thing that I think the majority of people got from that G.I. Jane joke, if you even were old enough to remember when that movie came out, was, number one, it wasn't that funny, or that wasn't that great of a movie. Number two, it wasn't that popular. So, number three, making a G.I. Jane reference just sounds dumb. So, I would say the majority of viewers, 0 to 1, Chris Rock, it goes against him for a crappy joke. But then, if you add in the fact that it's an actual condition that she has, and if Chris Rock knew that she had that condition and was saying this joke to her, suddenly it's no longer just a bad comedian joke where he didn't have good material, so he sees somebody with a shaved head and says, we'll see it for G.I. Jane too. Like, that's just not that funny. But then when you consider that he may have known, that is kind of shitty of him. And so at first Will Smith is smiling. I give Will Smith a pass for the smile, because the smile after it is like what you do in an awkward situation, such as a public event, such as the freaking Oscars, what are you supposed to do? So Will Smith smiles, looks at his wife, realizes that she's pissed or maybe humiliated, and his response is to get up, walk onto the stage, and humiliate the person that humiliated his wife by way of open-handed slap. He didn't punch him, he slapped him. A slap is kind of something that's like, it's kind of a little higher level of disrespect in a way to do to another male. He's I think making a point by a slap. Hey, I'm not going to hurt you with this, but I am going to do something that is unacceptable to you, and I'm basically paying you back for the disrespect that you did to my wife. So I listened to that from Scott Adams, and I'm like, you know what? I can see where Will Smith is coming from. Then I'm listening to more people, and they bring out the point that this was the first time that Will Smith has ever won an Oscar, ever. And what happened was that he went up on stage on the night that he won an Oscar, and he slapped a dude for telling a joke. A bad joke, maybe offensive, true. But is there not a better way to handle this? Because instead of it being the night when Will Smith gets to remember that he won his first ever Oscar, now he gets to know when he looks back on that night, and when everybody else in the world looks back on this night, they're going to remember that he slapped a dude on stage for telling a bad joke. So I guess my conclusion is there was a better way that he could have done everything that he felt like he needed to do. He's come out and apologized. He said so. And it turns out, according to what I've recently heard, Chris Rock didn't even know that his wife had alopecia. I don't know if that's true or not. Either way, it's one of those things where if you don't know what's going on in the mind of Chris Rock, and he's just making a G.I. Jane joke, which is what he said after he got slapped, and Will Smith shouted at him loud enough that everyone in the freaking audience could hear him. Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. He shouted it twice. Freaking super awkward in the whole place. It was reverberating off of the walls, the whole bit. Everybody's standing there. He's like, I just told a G.I. Jane joke, dude. And so at the end of the day, though, Will Smith, I think what he could have done, instead of having to go through all this apology and everything, he could have kept that smile on his face, put his hand on his wife's leg, or put his arm around her, or given her a kiss, said, I love you, baby. Then when he gets up on stage, because I'm pretty sure he knew that he was going to win the Oscar, he gets up on stage, and he does his whole thing about, I'm just like King Richard fighting for my family. He said that. He could have then said, and I'm going to do it again, Chris, my wife's condition, that's not a cool thing to joke about. I do not appreciate that. That's disrespectful to her, and she deserves better than that. So I'm going to stand up for her here on this stage and let people know that this is a real thing that matters. He could have said something like that, and I promise you, it would have done a whole lot more to put Chris Rock in his place, if we feel like we need to put Chris Rock in his place. Because we'll get into the counter argument to that in a second, but like, he could have done that and put Chris Rock in his place a whole lot more than slapping him on stage at a public ceremony that is supposed to be the gathering of the most upstanding, sophisticated people literally in the world. They're all in their suits and their tuxes, and I'm going to slap you because you said, can't wait to see G.I. Jane 2. Seriously? Like, so that would have made Chris probably feel a lot worse, look a lot worse, and it would have made Will Smith look like more of a man. So the counter argument to making Chris Rock look bad, to put him in his place, all of those things, would be then, dude, they bring a comedian. They paid a comedian to come to this event. That's what these comedians do. They make fun of people. So Chris Rock, you can go with that too. He didn't do anything wrong. He was telling jokes. He really was just telling a G.I. Jane joke. So I get that too. Maybe they should have just smiled and nodded and dealt with it. It's nuanced. I get both sides of it. In the end, though, I come out with saying the way that Chris Rock handled himself in the aftermath, even though he did tell a joke that may have been insensitive and disrespectful, he comes out looking like the better man because he stayed composed. He joked about it after it was done. Meanwhile, Will Smith is down shouting and cursing from his chair after slapping the dude. So I think Chris Rock in the end wins. But I think a secondary discussion worth having is like, what happens right now in our society is people get caught up in the moment, in what they feel, all caught up in their feelings of here and now, and they are not paying attention to what the ramifications are for your future because you're too caught up in the emotional state that you're in right now that you're unable to be wise enough to foresee what this could lead to. And is it something that you actually want for your life? Do you think that Will Smith, now that he's apologized, do you think that what he ultimately wanted was to have his legacy tarnished? He won the most distinguished award that you can get for being an actor. He won that finally after all of these years of trying to perform his best. He finally gets it, and now it's ruined to a large degree. So I think that the secondary lesson is maybe we need to get out of our emotions so much. Our culture is so obsessed with, I feel this way, this is my truth, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's your truth for this very second. Emotions are not fact. They aren't stable. They're fact in the sense that, yes, you're feeling it, but it changes all the time. And if you can't keep yourself grounded in some form of like a calm reality or the principle that peace and patience and love are going to win out in the day, that you keeping your cool is a bigger man than you going on stage and slapping somebody because they tell a bad joke about your wife. Secondly, I get the position that Will Smith is in. He's got to look out for his wife. But dude, the same thing goes for her too. If this is a condition and she's mentioned it and she's there with her head shaved or with short hair, she knows. And she knows because of all the publicity that everyone else knows that this is a condition that she has. And everyone with a conscience, with a good moral, tender heart, they're going to look at that and they're going to see that Chris Rock comes out the bad guy. She comes out the good guy for laughing it off because she's capable of being strong in the moment. Being strong in the moment doesn't mean I get pissed off and I get my husband to go up and slap a dude on stage. So I think that we need to come back to a state where we recognize that emotional state of being in the moment isn't king. The king of everything, the thing that rules your state of being the most are principles, virtues, keeping cool, being the better person. That means staying calm and showing love, turning the other cheek in the face of somebody that's doing something really shitty to you. Chris Rock came out being the better guy in this situation. It didn't have to be that way. So those are my thoughts. And that's all I got to say on this edition of Entertainment Tonight. Entertainment Tonight, brought to you by Darren Kime. I'll talk to you guys next time.